Come close. Come close now. Sit down where the fire can reach your face. You can be surrounded by a room full of people and still be the loneliest soul in the valley. I'm 84. I've buried more friends than I have left. I've sat beside beds where the dying whispered names of people who hadn't called them in years. And I've watched the living walk through their days with a smile on their face and a hollow where their heart used to live. Today I'm going to show you the 4 signs that you're more alone than you think, and I'm going to tell you what to do about it before the light goes down behind the rocks for the last time. You think you know lonely. You think lonely is an empty house and a cold supper. But I'm telling you, lonely is a full house and no one who sees you. Lonely is sitting at a table with your own children and realizing they're speaking a language you don't understand anymore. Lonely is lying next to someone you've shared 40 winters with and feeling like strangers on opposite shores of a wide river. The modern world wants you to believe loneliness is a problem of proximity. If you just had more people around, more gatherings, more phone calls, more texts, you'd feel less alone. That's a lie. That's the biggest lie they're selling to people our age. You can be drowning in company and still be dying of thirst. I've watched it happen to good people, strong people, people who raised families and built businesses and carried communities on their backs. And I've seen them wither because no one asked them the right question. The old way teaches us something different. The old way teaches us that loneliness is a sickness of the spirit. It's not about how many people are in your tent. It's about how many of them know the song of your heart. So let's look at the signs. Let's see if the fire in your chest has gone cold without you even noticing. Sign number 1. The people in your life only come to you when they need something. You know who I'm talking about. The phone rings and your heart lifts for just a second, and then you see the name and you already know what's coming. They need money. They need a ride. They need you to watch the grandchildren. They need you to fix something that's broken. They need you to listen to their problems. But when was the last time they called just to hear your voice? When was the last time someone sat across from you and asked how your heart was doing? Not how your knee was feeling, not whether you'd been to the doctor, not what you thought about the news, how your heart was doing. I had a friend named Beatrice. Beatrice was a woman who'd given everything to her children, raised them alone after her husband passed, worked 2 jobs, never complained. And when those children grew up and had children of their own, she was there for every holiday, every birthday, every emergency. But Beatrice told me something one evening as we watched the sun go down over the canyon. She said, "Helen, I realized the other day that none of my children know my favorite color. None of them know what I dream about at night. They know what I can do for them, but they don't know who I am." That's a hard truth. That's the kind of truth that cuts right to the bone. If the people in your life are only showing up with their hands out, if they're only coming to you when their own boat is sinking, you're not surrounded by family or friends. You're surrounded by customers, and customers don't love you. They use you. The river doesn't care if you're thirsty. The river just flows, and people who only come to you for what you can give them are like that river. They take and they take and they keep moving. Sign number 2, you've stopped telling the truth about how you feel because no one is really listening. Think about it. Think about the last time someone asked you how you were and you gave them the real answer, not fine, not hanging in there, not can't complain. The real answer, the one that lives in your chest at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep and the ceiling is staring down at you and you're thinking about all the people who've gone and all the things you didn't say. I see it all the time. We get to this age and we learn to perform. We put on the face, we play the part, we tell people we're okay because it's easier than watching them shift uncomfortably when we tell the truth. But here's what happens: the more you perform, the more invisible you become. You start to believe that the real you doesn't matter, that your pain is too heavy to share, that your joy is too small to celebrate. You become a ghost in your own life. There's a man I know named Earl. Earl lost his wife 3 years ago, and every time someone asks how he's doing, he says the same thing: just taking it one day at a time. And people nod and move on. They feel like they've done their duty. They asked. He answered. Case closed. But I sat with Earl last spring. We were out by the river and the cottonwoods were just starting to leaf out. And I asked him not how he was doing, but what he was feeling right then, right in that moment. And Earl started to cry. He said, Helen, I feel like I'm living in a house with no walls. I feel like I'm floating down a river with no banks. I feel like I'm invisible. People walk right past me and they don't even see me anymore. That was the truth. That was the truth he'd been carrying all alone because no one had ever asked him the right way, and he'd stopped believing anyone wanted the real answer. If you've stopped telling the truth about how you feel because you think no one is listening, you're not protecting yourself. You're burying yourself alive, and the only sound is the dirt falling on the coffin. Sign number 3. You feel more at peace alone than with the people in your life. Now this is a sign that sneaks up on you. It's quiet. It doesn't announce itself. You start finding excuses to be alone. You eat in a different room. You go to bed earlier. You take longer walks. You find yourself looking forward to the time when the house is empty and you can just breathe. And people around you might even praise you for it. They'll say you're so independent, so strong, so capable of being alone. But I want you to listen to me carefully. There's a difference between choosing solitude because it feeds your spirit and retreating into it because the people around you have become a burden. If you feel more at peace by yourself than with the people who are supposed to be your family, that's not a victory. That's a warning. I've watched this happen to so many women, especially women who've spent their whole lives taking care of everyone else, and now they're tired, so tired, and the people around them don't see the tired. They just see the obligation. They just see what they still need. So these women start to pull back. They start to disappear into themselves. They stop calling. They stop visiting. They stop answering the door. And they tell themselves they're just finally taking care of themselves. But let me tell you about Ruth. Ruth was a woman who'd raised 6 children who all lived within an hour of her. And Ruth slowly started pulling away. She stopped going to the big family dinners. She stopped answering the phone on Sunday afternoons. She told herself she was just tired. She told herself they didn't really need her anyway. What Ruth didn't tell herself, what Ruth couldn't face, was that she was tired of being invisible. She was tired of being the cook and the babysitter and the problem solver. She was tired of being used. But Ruth also didn't tell herself that she was punishing herself more than she was punishing them. She was isolating herself in a cage she'd built with her own hands. The peace you feel when you pull away isn't always peace. Sometimes it's surrender. Sometimes it's giving up on being seen. And that's a different kind of loneliness altogether. The loneliness you choose because you've given up hope that anyone will ever really see you. Sign number 4. You've replaced real connection with surface level routines. You talk about the weather, you talk about the grandkids, you talk about the neighbors and what they're doing and what they should be doing. You talk about what's on television and what the doctor said and what the traffic was like, but you don't talk about the things that matter. You don't talk about what keeps you up at night. You don't talk about the dream you had about your mother who's been gone 40 years. You don't talk about the way your chest tightens when you think about your own mortality. You've turned your relationships into scripts. There's a predictable rhythm to every conversation. You say your lines, they say theirs. Everyone nods and goes home, and the real connection, the one that nourishes the spirit, never happens. I've seen this in so many marriages. Two people who've been together for 50 years, and they've become strangers with joint bank accounts. They do all the things they're supposed to do. They eat together. They sleep in the same bed. They go to the same doctor's appointments. But they haven't had a real conversation in years, decades maybe. Edith and George were like that. They'd been married 62 years when Edith came to me. She was sitting on my porch, holding her hands in her lap, and she looked so small to me, so shrunken. She said, "Helen, George reads the newspaper at breakfast. I do the crossword puzzle. We sit in the same room all day. And at night, we watch television. And I realized the other day that I don't even know what he's afraid of. I don't know what his heart is carrying. I don't know who he is anymore." She said it like she was confessing a sin, like she'd failed some great test. And I told her, "Edith, the test isn't the marriage. The test is the connection. And if you're just going through the motions, you're not married. You're performing. If you're replacing real connection with surface level routines, if you're avoiding the deep water and just splashing around in the shallows, then you're more alone than you think. You're standing in a crowded room and everyone's speaking a language that doesn't reach your soul. Now I want to turn this back on you because it's easy to look at these signs and nod your head. It's easy to point at someone else and see them in these stories. But the harder question is about you. Which of these signs are living in your life right now? Are you surrounded by people who only come to you with their hands out? Have you stopped telling the truth because no one is really listening? Do you feel more at peace alone because the people around you have become a burden? Have you replaced real connection with routines that leave you hollow? Because here's what I know. Here's what the old way teaches us. Loneliness isn't cured by more people. It's cured by one person who sees you, one person who knows the song of your heart, one person who can sit with you in silence and not need to fill the space with noise. And sometimes that person isn't going to find you. Sometimes you have to do the finding. You have to reach across the distance. You have to say the hard thing. You have to be the one who asks the real question, even if you're afraid of the answer. You have to stop performing. You have to let someone see you, really see you, the messy, tired, scared, hopeful, wondering version of you that lives behind the mask. And if the people around you can't meet you there, then you have to find new people. You have to find your tribe. You have to seek out the ones who still remember what it means to see a soul. It's not too late. It's never too late. The river doesn't care how many seasons have passed. The river just flows, and you can still flow toward connection. You can still move toward the deep water. You can start today. You can start right now. Pick one person you trust, or one person you used to trust, or one person you want to trust, and tell them the truth. Tell them how you really are. Tell them what you're afraid of. Tell them what you're hoping for. Don't wait for them to ask. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is a lie. The perfect moment is what you make with your own two hands. I'm telling you this because I've lived it. I've been the lonely one in a crowded room. I've performed the role of the wise elder while my own heart was starving. And I learned the hard way, that you have to be the one to reach out first. Because the other side of that risk is a life lived in the shallow water, a life lived in the cage of your own making, a life where you go to your grave with secrets you never shared and love you never fully gave. Don't let that be you. Down in the comments, tell me, which sign hit closest to home for you? Just the number. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Just one word. I read every one. The fire's burning low. The light's going down behind the rocks. You've got fewer evenings ahead than behind. Don't waste a single one.